Hey everybody, it's the Lit Teacher here, and today I'm continuing my series on the unfamiliar texts exams. This works for level 1, 2, or 3, and I'm going to be talking to you about the different text types that you'll encounter in this exam. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you essentially about the difference between analyzing poetry, analyzing prose that has a fictional focus, analyzing prose with a non-fiction focus, and what you can expect to spot across all three text types. So let's get straight into it talking about poetry. So when you get a poetry text, the first thing to be aware of is the form of the text. You need to think about the structure. You need to consider things like how many stanza are we dealing with here? What is the length of the lines in the poetry? Are there line breaks? In other words, what does the poem look like on the page? This is a really good starting point. The other thing to think about is the fact that poetry frequently uses specific sound devices or techniques that create rhythm. So that is another important in when you're looking at a poetic text. So let's talk about some of the key features of poetry. In other words, the kinds of language features you might expect to find in these texts. As I've already kind of touched on, you might want to think about things like stanza breaks and line breaks. There's also the language feature we call enjambment. This is when a poetic line will continue on to the next line. It's not what we call an end-stopped line. If you want a specific video outlining techniques like enjambment, you can go and look at my language features series. Another language feature is caesura, or any other form of deliberate punctuation. This works to break up a poem, and this can have impacts on the flow, the rhythm that is created. Also consider line length. The poet is often being very strategic and deliberate when they have a really long line followed by a particularly short one. Again, this has implications on flow and rhythm. In general, you also might think about the rhyme patterns or schemes the poem is using. Is it got a particular rhyme scheme, or is it written in what we call free verse without a rhyme scheme? This will cause you to think about things like the rhythm and meter of the poem too. There are also a variety of forms of repetition that you will find in poetry. There are specific names. If you can't remember them all, you can just refer to this as repetition, but you might want to get more specific with things like anaphora, parallelism, or what we call a refrain, where something is repeated across the poem, almost like the lyrics of a song, a chorus that it keeps coming back to. There's also a suite of sound techniques, things like alliteration, assonance, more specifically consonants, and sibilants. If you're across these techniques, you'll be able to talk about some of the sound things that the poem is doing. And carrying on this focus on sound, poems often use onomatopoeia, that is specific sound words that you might isolate. Let's now talk about prose, specifically fiction prose. Now, the important thing to note here is that fiction prose often has a storytelling element. These are stories or parts of broader stories. This means that there will often be a character or a narrator who is experiencing some events or potentially reflecting on events. Even though these texts are short, they often have distinct beginning, middles, and ends. In other words, structurally, they have a narrative arc. If you've looked at my videos on how to tackle the unfamiliar text series, you'll know that I'm really big on trying to chunk the text up into 3 parts. So when you're looking at a prose text, you may want to think about the beginning, middle, and end, and are there specific narrative points within the text that you can isolate and identify. Fictional prose will also often have a strong descriptive element. There will be descriptive language, which is kind of creating a picture or imagery in our mind. This may connect to a character, to a setting, and this all kind of accumulates to create a mood or feeling that is communicated in a fictional prose text. Okay, so what are the key features here? And it is just worth mentioning at this point that these features are not specifically unique to these texts. As I'll point out at the end of the video, you may find these language features and techniques across different text types, but I'm just trying to zero in on the ones that are more common perhaps within set text types. So the first one is narration, and what I'd encourage you to think about here is the point of view that the narration adopts. Do we have first person perspective? I, me, my, we? Do we have second person perspective? You? Or do we have third person perspective? He, she, they, them? If we can identify this, that will be a really helpful way to consider characters within the text and also the role of narration. Along these lines, we may also want to think about the tense that is being used. Is this written in the past tense, looking back on an event, or is it written in the present as things are happening? Again, this can have implications for the narration and the way that we interpret the story being told. A great catch-all language feature is characterization. This is anything, literally anything that helps build a picture of a specific character within a text. So within this are other language features that combine to create this characterization. What am I talking about? I'm talking about things like dialogue, things like the narration, things like specific descriptive passages, and also action, the ways in which the things that characters do tell us a lot about who they are. Keep a lookout for that kind of stuff. Just as we would consider rhythm in poetry, we may consider the pacing of a fictional prose piece. You might want to think about sentence length and paragraph length. A really surefire way for a writer to increase the pace in a piece of prose is to vary their sentence length. You may have long, rambling, rolling sentences that are quickly interrupted by short, sharp ones. This has impacts on how we read the text, and as I've mentioned, contributes to the pace and rhythm within a piece of prose. Think about setting an atmosphere. Where are we? Time, place, but also what does this place feel like? What kind of mood is being established here? What atmosphere is the writer building? Perhaps through their description, perhaps through something like imagery. You may also think about narrative structural devices, things like foreshadowing, hinting at things that are maybe going to happen later in the text, or other narrative devices like flashback or even flash forward. These are key structural narrative devices that again have a significant impact on how a piece of prose is constructed. Okay, let's now talk about the other kind of prose you may encounter, non-fiction texts. I'm not saying that this is a rule of thumb that applies every time you get a non-fiction text, but more often than not, a non-fiction text will have a persuasive element to it. The writer will often be trying to convince us of something, or perhaps make us feel something at an emotional level. It's for this reason that the narrative voice may be more overtly opinionated than what you might encounter in a fictional piece, and the language choices may be different too. The register may be more informal, there may be the use of humor, or other types of narrative voice that are designed to appeal to you and get you on side so they can persuade you or convince you of something. So what are some key language features that we are looking for in non-fiction texts? One that jumps out often is the use of direct address, where the writer is really speaking to you. They may use that second person pronoun, you, to really try to hone in, especially on that persuasive point that they want you to get on board with. Other things that will appeal to you will be emotive language, where they're really trying to draw you in and make you feel some emotional connection with the subject that they are writing about. And they may also flip things towards you by using rhetorical questions, really forcing you to think about an issue, perhaps reflect on something you had a strong opinion on by offering you a rhetorical question which asks you to think differently about it. As I've already mentioned, there may be more informal language here. There may be the use of personal anecdotes to try to tell you a story to illustrate a point, Or there are things like humor and irony. I often see humor and irony in non-fiction texts, and it's incredible how often students do not pick up on humor. Humor is a really strong language feature. It's a strong element, particularly in persuading someone to get on board with what you think. So keep an eye out for any humor, regardless of whether you think it's actually funny or not. Other stuff we see with a persuasive bent is the use of facts, stats, quotes from experts in the subject, and specific jargon that might be unique to the topic or subject that the writer is focused on. We may also get significant tonal shifts. The writer may start fairly informal, fairly humorously, maybe light in tone to pull you into the writing and get you on board, only to switch tack later in the text to really hammer home an important point. So look for those tone shifts. They often happen in the last third of the text. You may also see in a non-fiction text that it has a very specific structure, particularly structural shifts. These are often constructed as arguments or cases that they are putting forward to you. So they may be laying out the evidence in the first part of the text to then hammer home the specific thing they want you to think in the middle and really convince you at the end, much like a lawyer or journalist would. I know I've spent a significant amount of time talking about specific language features that might pop up in poetry versus fictional prose versus nonfiction. But what are some general features that you can likely be sure might pop up in any of these text types? What are the go-to ones? Well, here's a very brief list. Imagery. Anything that appeals to your senses, makes you see something, hear something, smell something, touch, taste. Anything that's doing that in some capacity is imagery. We often see this in poetry. We often see it in prose. Imagery. Another really obvious one is what we call diction. This is just a fancy way of saying word choice. So anytime you zero in on specific words that are being used, you can call that diction. And yeah, there are words in poems and words in prose texts, so safe to say you can refer to diction. You may also refer to connotation, kind of word categories or the kind of hidden meanings and connotations that words can have. There's also the real go-to ones, the ones that students think of all the time. I'm talking about simile, metaphor, personification, symbolism. You see these across all different text types. You also see contrast and juxtaposition, putting conflicting ideas and images potentially next to one another for effect. That's contrast, that's juxtaposition. We see it all the time. Minor techniques that can have a really strong effect on a piece of writing are things like listing or rule of three. I just read a poem that had listing, and I contrast this with a non-fiction text that used it as well. This is a technique that's used uniformly across the board. And of course, the go-to one, regardless of text type, is tone and mood. That is, what is the tone that the writer is adopting, and what is the mood they're creating for you as a reader? These are not unique to any one text type. We see them in every text type regardless. And that was just some more advice on the unfamiliar text exams, contrasting poetry versus prose. If you like these videos and you want more advice specifically on these exams, I have other videos tackling the unfamiliar text exam series, as well as a playlist on my channel you can go and check out too. If you like what I'm doing, please feel free to like and subscribe or drop me a comment. I really appreciate, and I'll do my best to respond to all of you. Until next time, from the Lit Teacher, good luck with your exams, ka kite, and up the waz.